I'm in the studio with some really, really wonderful dancers and musicians. Soles of Duende are in the house. That's really exciting. You know what? Your mic is making a funny sound, so I'm going to move you over here. So we have Arielle Rosales and Brinda Guha and Amanda Castro. It's really great to have you guys. So, one vibe I got was that you guys are New Yorkers. Is that?
Yeah. Well,
this is like, this is like
in the spirit.
Yeah.
I'm the real New Yorker.
Okay.
She is.
And
Yeah.
now they are
It's
real
true.
New Yorkers.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah. Where were you?
Born and raised. Lower East Side.
Lower East Side.
Yeah.
All right. Are you a New Yorican?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amongst many things.
Yeah.
I'm a mutt.
Okay. Great. And Brinda, you grew up where?
I grew up in New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
On the
Okay.
shore.
All right.
On the Jersey shore.
Close enough. These days,
Right.
that makes you a New Yorker. I
went to NYU, so
Okay.
I feel happy about that. That was
Okay.
the beginning.
Yeah. And how about yourself?
Born in Brooklyn, raised in New Haven, Connecticut, and raised in a house full of Brooklynites. So
All right.
that was a whole experience in itself.
Yeah. What part of Brooklyn?
I was born in Lutheran. They all live now. I have a lot of family there. They live off Kings Highway and Fifth Avenue before it was the new Fifth Avenue.
All right.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
here now.
Yeah, we're all together.
And I'm now in Inwood. Whoop.
There you go.
Oh, that's my old hood. Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I love Inwood. So you guys are all coming from different styles of dance. Maybe you. Should we go there? Yeah, I guess so. Maybe why don't you each tell us like kind of the dance? So we could start with you.
Individually?
Yeah. Like what's your background in dance?
I'm a tap dancer.
Okay,
I'm a tap dancer, and I dabble in all the other genres of dance, but tap dance is the call.
And if someone wants to like look on YouTube and see the geniuses, like who should they be checking out if they like wanna?
Oh my God!
I know there's a big lick.
Yeah, Bill Robinson.
Uh-huh.
If you want to talk about big wigs now, I say they're the OGs for me. Dormisha Sombri Edwards,
Of course.
Jason Samuel Smith,
Mm-hmm.
Derek Grant, Savion, Marshall Davis. Those are Jared Grimes. Those are all the people that I study
Mm-hmm.
and who are on top for me right now.
Yeah.
And through them I feel like I am finding my voice, finding my percussion, my percussive voice.
Yeah, and I guess like people don't realize how much tap was like integrated with the whole history of jazz and in the jam sessions and all that, right?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I had just seen Ayodele Cassell's show at the Joyce. Oh my God, isn't it great, Brenda? Oh my God.
Yeah, I went last night.
Ooh. And Andre, one of the dancers, I loved his bio. Shout out to Andre and everybody else in the show. It was great.
Good.
But you can see, even in the written word, you can see in tap dancers will say, "I've played with," not "I danced for."
Right.
And it's seeing we are instruments, and it is a form of music rather than "look at me dance." And it's here. I feel it's more like, of course, hear what I have to say.
Right.
But yeah, tap and jazz are married. They are not separate. They
Yeah.
need each other forever. No matter how much they fight, they need each other.
Yeah, and to swing with the feet is not an easy thing.
No, not at all. That's the work.
Yeah.
And being open and honest and being able to sit. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And how about what's your background of dance?
Yeah, so I'm Arielle Rosales, and I do the flamenco portion of Soles of Duende.
Ooh.
So I've been dancing flamenco. I started when I was 5. And I have a background in a lot of different dance styles and different artistic mediums, like my degrees in musical theater and acting and da-da-da-da-da. And like the New Rican side of me grew up dancing salsa, and then like the New Yorker house and hip hop and blah, 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 blah. So that kind of New York vibe, and that is the underbelly to the, as like a connection point between these three styles, is heavy within the influence. But flamenco itself, it comes from the south of Spain, Andalusia. There's hundreds of years where there was like no documentation, so there's a lot of just oral tradition. You see the first documentation, I think, in the late 1700s, and it stems, if you really look back to it, it's really coming from, they say, from the Spanish Inquisition. You have Queen Isabella, King Ferdinand coming from the north and persecuting all these beautiful cultures that were in the south of Spain, which is, just a quick boat ride to Morocco. So you're right above Africa. You have a lot of Indian influence. They're saying that, there's a whole theory of the gypsy caravan route stems from India, and that's one theory. And so you see the influence of Kathak, you see the influence of African rhythms, you see the influence of Islamic prayers, you see the influence of different cultures and religions that over hundreds and hundreds of years of coming together to share their poetry, their rhythm, their music. You now have this culture and art form as flamenco, and it starts there are three elements in flamenco. There's the el cante, the singing, that came first. Then el toque, which is the playing of the guitar, came second, and el baile, the dance, actually is the third element to join this art form. So it's interesting because there's a misconception that, the musicians are just there to accompany the dancer, but it's not the case. There's an appropriate time for each, and at the end of the day, the dancer really is there to honor the singer and the musicians and play off of that. There is, if you really look at the tradition and culture behind it, the singing really is theoretically what everything is being based off of in the flamenco conversation. So for example, we have hundreds of what's called palos, and that's the different musical stylings that you would be dancing to. So as a flamenco dancer, it is your job to know which palo you're dancing to. And that's very, that's interesting because that's a challenge for me, because there's so many different kinds, and because I'm so influenced by my personal upbringing and the fusion that we get to play with, I get to break the rules and just focus on rhythm, focus on our personal stories, and I get the freedom to break away a little bit from the traditional way of dancing flamenco in many ways. But when you do it in a tablao setting and you're with your musicians and you don't have time for a rehearsal and you have to go and based off of the vocabulary of what is flamenco, there is a structure, and it's improv based just like jazz or anything else, but there's a structure to uphold so that you can then improv and run free. And that comes with specific steps we have called llamada, for example. It's a calling. It's a communication step to let the singer know, hey, I'm ready for you to sing. Or, hey, the guitarist, it's your turn to do a falseta. Or, hey, I'm going to do an escobilla, which is a footwork section. So, for example, I wouldn't do a strong, intricate footwork section on top of the singer singing their heart out. I would wait. And I'll do more upper body, and mark. And then they done. And then it's now I can go. Yeah.
Right. So it's pretty developed.
Very developed.
Yeah.
Very intricate. Yeah.
Interesting. I had a flamenco guitarist on once, and he was explaining exactly what you said, how it kind of was the Spanish Inquisition itself that forced all these groups into one thing, all these different oppressed groups. And it is one of the strange things about the universe, how the oppression and good music somehow.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Actually, that's a really interesting little segue into what duende is for anyone listening and doesn't know what duende is. So duende stems from the flamenco influence in our trio, but it's coined by Federico Garcia Lorca, which is a Spanish poet, and he says that he explains, he has a whole essay and a lot of writing, but the whole idea is that this theory of the energetic spirit that is creativity that flows within us and as vessels. And so there are a lot of theories behind it, and they say it's like the hardest word to define, but there are a lot of theories that it has to come from struggle. It has to come from pain. There are so many artists that, you know. And I wonder about that. Do we have to be in pain to create good work? But so much of it comes from struggle, you know.
Or the overcoming, right?
Or
The perspective of the exact moment that you overcome that pain. Maybe that's where it's born. Who knows? Yeah. Cool.
I wonder if we'll figure that one out in the next 15 minutes.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Turns out you don't. Yeah, and so Brinda, what's your background with dance?
So I'm a Kathak trained dancer. Kathak is North Indian classical dance. It's one of the 8 classical dance forms characterized by the Sangeet Natak Academy in India. And so there's just a constant flow of information that's kind of happening with classical Indian dance, and I think kind of like a broad way we can look at the history without, because it's a very big topic, but I think like an easy way to categorize it is pre-colonialism and then post-colonialism. So it's like the preservation of information, right? So that's what everyone was concerned with. Before it was devotional, it was starting to codify, but it was mostly expressive. It was mostly intricate in the storytelling, and like, I guess, even the storytelling between two beings or your relationship with God or something like that. And then after colonialism, which is, I mean, I'm talking about it like it's a blip in time, but it was a long time. And then after colonialism, it was just this fear of losing these traditions, right? And then losing the classicism that, you know, was alive. And so everything kind of became underground, and everything started to become a little bit more preserved. They wanted to preserve it because they didn't want to lose it, because now society was different. So they had to start codifying it now. Now they had to start actually building a structure and building something. And what we study today is very much kind of a codified post-colonialism kind of understanding of Kathak, but it pulls from a lot of different traditions, including Islam faith and Hindu faith. And so I learned from my mother. She's a disciple of Guru Bela Arnab, and from Kolkata, by the way. And she started a school in '86 in her garage in New Jersey, and had tons and tons of students in the Muslim community start with her. And about 2,500 students later,
wow,
we're here 33 years, and now I run the school in New Jersey, and we opened up a Queens branch, and we're just kind of seeing how it flows between Ma's training, her immigrant narrative, how she's passed on the information, and then how I'm carrying it forward. So yeah, I'm in that work.
And so, like 400 years ago, when people were doing Kathak, was it in the court, or was it in the temples, or was it in
400 years ago? That would make us where, 1600s?
Yeah.
I mean,
or whatever. Yeah, I mean, back a few centuries ago. Or did it keep changing?
It kept changing. It definitely kept changing. But I would say there was a huge period of time where it was based in the Hindu faith. You were in the temples, and you were telling, you were telling stories of Shiva or Kali or Durga, and you were trying to find this power that you were able to then give to the villagers, and you were able to then share those stories. But the Mughal Empire, which God knows when that was, I don't even know my dates, but when the Mughal Empire kind of rolled in, it kind of changed the identity of the Kathak dancer. The Kathak dancer suddenly became the entertainer of the space, right? Because of all these elitist spaces. So with that, although there is a lot of storytelling to be said about the feminist theory of Kathak at that time, but what was interesting about that was that technique was formed. It turned into how do I look the best? How do I do the most? You know, so then footwork started and turns started, and all the glamour that we celebrate about Kathak today comes from that period of time. And so you'll see in one phrase we might do namaste, but we might also do salam, you know, in the same phrase, because it's so intertwined at this point. So Kathak in itself is a fusion, and then being able to share it with the girls of Soles of Duende, I feel like it's almost like it's like a perfect old tradition to have in the mix of this work, because it's always changed in itself. And so then having it converse with all these other percussive forms seems like the right thing to do.
For sure. Yeah, so you guys got together. When did you guys all meet up?
3
years.
4
3
3
3 years ago.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
November.
And the concept was to bring all these styles together. And
It was for what was the date? It was November something.
November 30th.
November 30th, 2016. There was a festival that's been going on for a very long time at Dixon Place, and it was just a one-time festival, and we were going to be one of many acts and
8-inch show.
8-inch show.
8-inch show.
And it's something. Those types of festivals are wonderful opportunities for dancers when you're in like the works in progress stages. You get to test it out, but you know, and yeah. So we put it together, and Brinda and I go way back, and she knew Amanda from what was the Run the Night.
Run the
Jared
Night.
Grimes, who's a phenomenal tapper.
I was sweating her. I was sweating Amanda Castro. I was like, Arielle. Oh, we found her. Oh.
And the moment that we met, we went in for this hug and went straight to it, and it was like, this is special. Okay. We put on this show, and people were like, oh, when are you doing this again? Da, 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 da. And we're like, I don't know. When are you doing this again?
I just got to sweat on Amanda Castro for a second, though, because when we saw her, she rolls through in a hip-hop dance festival. Competition. Hip-hop dance competition. This girl comes out with a plank of wood and does a whole solo to Vivaldi.
all right.
And then walks away with first place. And I'm like, I'm gonna Facebook stalk her. And it worked.
Oh my god.
And it's funny because so much of this comes full circle, because we talk about Dixon Place. That's where we ended up having our first full commissioned residency to put on our first full production show. So it's amazing that in a short period of time that connection went from something so popping in and out into something so concrete that now we're going into a second version of this production. And this same Run the Night that Brinda discovered Amanda at, we come back and by like the skin of our teeth get second place. Again, this is a place, this environment is what a lot of hip-hop dance, commercial dance, a lot of crews, you know, a lot of really big high energy, really cleanly choreographed material, and we just roll in with the and they're like, whoa, what is that?
Wow.
It's been a journey. Shout out to Gibney. They picked up our show for 2020, and it'll be our show Can We Dance here, I guess the second edition, at Gibney in April 2020. So we can't wait.
Sweet. One thing I'm always curious about with dance is like whenever I'm around dancers and they start showing me things, I always learn that there's so much like symbolism. Like I've been studying music with, you guys know Melvis Santa, Afro-Cuban singer? You should. You will. Anyway, she's awesome. And so and like I'm always amazed that every single movement, even we bend our knees towards the floor because it's about the earth and it's about balance and all this stuff. So I'm just curious, like, what kinds of things you have kind of picked up through the study of dance about history or about, you know, what the message behind the music's.
I think I just want to take this only because I think it's striking that in our three styles of dance, which we got together for truly logistical and energetic reasons, right? But like when you actually take a look at our craft, and I've learned so much about flamenco and tap through working with these ladies, I feel as though we have one thing in common, and and that thing, no matter what time period we're talking about these dance forms flourishing in, one thing that's in common is there's this energy that's kind of coming from the earth, and then there's this kind of expression that goes upward towards the divine. So there's this like very strong connection between ground and earth, and it looks different in the three of our bodies, but I think we end up falling into this space of trying to figure out what that line and that length is in our bodies, while making music and while communicating through rhythm. So that's one thing that I've noticed as a collective that we do have in common in terms of what the floor feels like versus how up are we expressing, you know what I mean? And where are we giving that energy upward? But as far as Indian dance goes, I mean, everything is symbolic. Yeah, everything is symbolic. And Kathak, out of the 8 forms, is actually, I would say, the most, for lack of a better term, flexible, because Kathak has moved so much and has gone through so much change. So,
yeah, I just came from working with urban bushwomen this weekend in upstate in Buffalo. And we were entering back into a work called Walking with Train that just walks through his life. It's an evening-length show. And through that piece, and through the research and history and studying for that piece, there was no tap dancing in that, but there was a lot of tap dancing within my body without shoes on. So it was a really big investigation of how do you create visual rhythm for an audience? And there are a lot of movement methods that we created in order to try to make our vision clear of communicating what Coltrane's journey was like to us. And I realized we worked on that piece when I was in the company for about 3-4 years. We developed that piece from nothing, and now entering back into it 3 years later, with all the tap dancing and other things that I've done, because I've been doing musical theater and I've done a few West Side Stories and all the things, but tap dancing in between all of those shows and tap dancing within them, and then entering back into the show and now entering back into Soles. There is always, you're right, there's always this sense of like giving to the earth that supports you and giving to the God that's keeping you alive. Every time you're trying to give rhythm to an audience. Every time. And just even working with the company this weekend, Urban Bushwomen, realizing that you can't express rhythm without doing both, for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're making a choice. You're using your voice and making a choice when you are making sound, and you are using your voice and making a choice when you aren't. So everything means everything that you do.
Right. Silence is just as important as
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys.
I
need to be writing this down.
Get out of here.
Why didn't I record? It could change my life. We actually only have like a minute. I know you're probably chomping a bit. Go ahead. I know you have a lot to say on this topic, right?
I
Go
have a lot
ahead.
to say
Go
about
ahead.
everything. No, well, one of the things that's just interesting, the history behind Kathak, Flamenco, and tap in that order, and I say it because its birth came in that order. Kathak has the most direct symbolism, I feel. I think tap has the most freedom in many ways, and flamenco, which goes hand in hand with that conversation of stemming from an oppressed people, it's not a direct symbolism in that, like, our floreo, our hand movement, is not an actual definable character by any means, but it's there's this constant redistribution of freedom and resistance. And I think that's something I've noticed. I feel that, like, Brinda and I have adopted some of the freedom that Amanda brings. I think that perhaps like what I'm getting at as I see Amanda and Brinda getting a little bit more in tune with that freedom resistance thing that comes from flamenco. There's a weightedness. There's like that flamenco specifically brings. And then we have a lot of intricacies that we're learning from the Kathak, that like the details, the attention to detail. And I think it stems from that strong symbolism that everything is so specific.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And these are little nuances that we adopt from each other. And in and of itself, we're creating our own language in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
And all the work that we kind of created so far and will continue to create, I think, is always going to be in that vein of audible and visual rhythm. We're working on what that looks like because we are, as you beautifully introduced us, we are musicians and we are dancers. Yeah. So it's kind of finding what that sweet spot is, right? Because sometimes it is about the music that we're making, but sometimes it's about what the visual that we're seeing, and sometimes it's both and sometimes it's neither, you know? So we're trying to just like see how all of these things kind of work, and 3 years in, we're really excited to continue.
All right. Well, if you're just tuning in, I am with Soles of Duende. We're actually slipped over into the next show, which is Raga Tal, but that's not that crazy because Soles of Duende will be performing at the Ragas Live Festival.
Hey.
Yeah. So maybe just super quick, because I can see the next programmer. Can't wait. What you guys are performing is October 19th at Pioneer Works. I think at 11 o'clock or something like that. Yeah. And I love your audience, by the way. You have such a energetic, enthusiastic, diverse audience. It's so cool. What should we expect?
Well, we have 2 accompanists, and you need to get into them. They're incredible. Frank Malloy IV, he plays djembe and all kinds of percussion. And our very own Ragas family, Roshni Samlal on tabla. Right. And so we're excited to see 2 powerful people of color get on their instruments and rock out with us. Yeah. So that'll be really great.
Yeah. Expect some joy.
Say again?
Expect some joy.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's what we need, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for bringing the joy. This was Arielle Rosales and Amanda Castro and Brinda Guha. This was so fun. We got to do it for longer next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we're now going to begin Rag or Tal with Raga Aberi from El Shankar.